Hari Om. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Hare Paramatmane, Pranadakleshanashaya, Govindaya Namaha. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, is the Yoga Shastra. It is the timeless manual for the Yoga Shastra. And if you see the verses of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, every verse lives and breathes in yoga. If you see the Arjuna as the character, the confused Arjuna, and in the first chapter we can see the Vishada Yoga in despair. And Arjuna is uplifted by what? Not through offering any consoling words. Is it? There is no consoling words. Straight away Bhagavan is asking how this kind of despair is happening in you. This Kashmalatum, how it landed in you, Arjuna. So Arjuna is uplifted not by merely consoling him through some words. Bhagavan basically jumps, or we can say unveils yoga from the first Upadesha. And it is very practical. It is very luminous. And this yoga is the divine science of life. And if you see Bhagavad Gita as a Shastra, we all will appreciate that this Shastram is the holistic integration of the four yogas. The Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, dhyāna Yoga or Upasana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. When we say Karma Yoga, selfless action, the way to do your action, the way to execute your action through the philosophy of selflessness, not selfishness. Karmitva nashaya cha Karma Yoga. And Jnana Yoga is all about the inculcation of this sublime knowledge. Dhyāna Yoga, the Upasana Yoga, is all about deep reflection, deep meditation, stilling the mind. What happens when stilling of the mind happens? The knowledge starts appearing in the mind. The knowledge, it evolves to that knowledge. Mind evolves to grasp that knowledge. And Bhakti Yogam as a Yogam, it's all about love. Love for what? The heartfelt devotion to that Supreme. Heartfelt devotion to the Lord. And Gita as a Shastram says that this yoga can be magnificently practiced. It is not some theoretical kind of a philosophy it is giving. Because it is very clear. Amidst of any noise, any messy environment, in the Kurukshetra Yuddha, in the war field, amidst of a very messy, noisy, very challenging and demanding scenario that Arjuna is facing. So it means what? This yoga can be perfectly applied to all of us when we live in this world, in a noisy, in a messy, in a demanding kind of a battlefield. We all are facing that in our life. Hmm? And Bhagavan is advising Arjuna not to run away from your duties. So you may think that for inculcating this yoga, we have to get rid of our family life, get rid of everything, go to some place, withdraw from everything in this world. It is not like that. You do your duties, though it is very, very, very ordinary, no problem. Whatever is it. It need not be very technical, hi-fi, scientific, rich in technology and all, nothing. Okay, so do your duties, whatever nature of that duty is, you divinize it. You bring serenity, you bring balance, you bring courage. How the balance and courage comes? When we have the knowledge. And how the courage comes? When we have the deep conviction that we are not this mere body, mind, intellect, sense. So when we have this conviction, we will be able to convert everything into the serene nature. It's a divinization. Karma Yoga is all about divinizing, converting work to worship. Whether you do action or meditation, you divinize it. And for what reason you need to divinize it? Because you need to steadily transcend the ego. Once you overcome that ego, then only we will see the highest possibility in all of us. That is where Gita as a Shastram, we all will appreciate that it is the Yoga Shastra, Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. Every chapter you can see. Idi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade dhyāna yogo nama Shashto Dhyaya, 6th chapter. Every chapter. Idi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvadam. It is a samvadam, it is a dialogue. It is Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu. It's an Upanishad. It is the highest truth. Upanishad reveals the highest truth. What is Upanishad? What is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is Upanishad. Bhagavad Gita Upanishad. So it is a Vedanta. It is the Brahma Vidya Shastra. And not only that, it is a Yoga Shastra. Teaching different paths of union with the God. At a broader level, these four yoga, karmam, jnanam, bhakti and vasana, meditation. These all are the paths to the union. Correct? And the highest knowledge comes from the Upanishad, and Gita is the Upanishad itself. It is a Yoga Shastra also, practically, taking a path or a combination of paths to unite with that highest supreme. And it is happening through what? It is happening through a dialogue. Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvada. It is happening through a dialogue, and that dialogue doesn't mean that it is a mere dialogue. It is a practical wisdom. That is where every now and then the Guru, Bhagavan Krishna, is giving the direction, practical wisdom. That is where the dialogue plays a major role here. So the union of four yogas, it is the integration of the four yogas. And yoga is not just, from a modern point of view, people may think yoga is either the asana or the meditation. No, it is not just a mere meditation. It is not something like meditate and live in a cave. That is not yoga. It is not something like you have some posture, then it is yoga. No. These all are the initial steps. And again, meditate and live in the cave. That is also not the yoga. Maybe whoever is destined to do that, that is okay. Those who don't have the prarabdham to do the karmam, it's okay. But otherwise, for a grahasthasrami, for a common man, yoga is not just detaching from the regular life. No. It is linking our regular life with the right knowledge. Amidst of all the duty, link our life with the right knowledge. Live in the family, live in the society, do your duty. So here, the fundamental step that Bhagavan is advising to Arjuna is the action and renunciation. Bhagavan says about passion, dispassion and compassion. If you see these verses that we have gone through, you need to have anxiety, you have to have passion. As a yodha, you please be responsible for executing your duty. Don't run away from your passion. You need to have passion. You need to have passion, and that passion will also create anxiety. When we do the work, obviously it is quite obvious that anxiety will also come. So how to overcome that anxiety? That is through dispassion. You need to relax. How that relaxation happens? Only through the dispassion. Dispassion meaning here, understand what is permanent, what is not permanent, what will stay, what will not stay, what is relevant, what is not irrelevant, what is relevant, what is not relevant. See, you all have traveled to many destinations in the international or national, right? So when you have to take multiple flights, maybe one leg will be a 5 hour flight, next leg maybe 9 hour, third maybe another 3 hours. So you probably will use these airport lounges for relaxing, sitting, refreshing. Even while we relax, while we are there in the lounge, what we will think? We will think about our destination. Next flight at what time? Though you know that we have a 3 hours of gap or 4 hours of gap, every now and then you'll go and see the TV screen. Is there any change in the flight schedule, etc. Right? So whenever we do work, whenever we turn things around, dispassion should come. Dispassion meaning the relaxation. Like when we do the travel abroad and across airports, we all use these transit lounges, and we know that that will be for some short time. So while we do the work, also understand that this is for short time. The results may come in favor or not in favor. That is where the dispassion. What will stay with me? What will not stay with me? This is the relaxation. Dispassion is relaxation for us. It should be. And compassion meaning what? When we understand passion, dispassion, and the bigger truth, what is the real meaning that one should have? What should be the real meaning that I should inculcate in my life? What am I aiming in my life? Then we will start thinking about the broader society, the people, the real impact that I as an individual can do. And not only out of sympathy or something, it is basically the right understanding that the thread is same, the common thread is. That is where the real compassion comes. So action, dispassion, or passion, dispassion, and compassion. Action is all about what? Outer dynamism, because we have to execute things, we have to do the work. And renunciation is what? It is the inner calmness, staying at the core, the ajanjalada. That's what Bhagavan says in all chapters. The outer dynamism and the inner coolness or the calmness. This is yoga. This is the balance of action and renunciation. You balance the action and renunciation. At the same time, don't run away. You fulfill your responsibilities. This is the real strength, inner strength through yoga. That's what Bhagavan says. This is why it's called Yoga Shastra. Directed through or directed towards, when we say yogam is the real inner strength or inner strength through yogam, your yoga. How or what is that strength? That strength is directed towards the ultimate reality, towards God, towards Ishvara, towards that ultimate reality, right? And yoga, your yoga, in Sanskrit, it comes from the root yuj. Yuj meaning join or unite or yoke. So what has to be united here? The individual self called as the Jiva or the Jiva Atma, uniting with the Supreme Self, uniting with the Paramatma. So yogam, all activities that one does toward the yoga is the Chitta Vritti Nirodham. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So at that point of time, Tada Drishta Surupe Avastha. Still your mind. Control the fluctuation of the mind. With the surrender, Ishvara Pranidhana. And that surrender happens through the bhakti, the path of devotion. Ultimately leading to what? Ultimately leading to the realization. So Karma Yogam as a way where that path paves selfless actions. Why selfless action? Because we cannot gather the attachment to the results and the stains of the execution. So with this approach, what happens? A karma yogi purifies the heart day by day. Because path of selfless action meaning what? Not having attachment to the results, and it is fully aligned with the divine will. It's a prasada buddhi. Karma yoga is all about prasada buddhi. Right? Bhakti as a path of devotion, the love, the surrender. Karma yoga as a path of selfless action with the bhakti only again, where the actions cannot be avoided. You do the action, but don't accumulate the stains, don't get attached to the results. You align with that divine will. That is also a purification, ultimately leading to the path of realization. And jnana yogam, right? Again, it's a path of knowledge only. It is the real inquiry happening into the nature of our own self. That inquiry, if you start doing, ultimately will see that the individual self is not at all separate from that supreme Tattvamasi. So as Gita Shastram, we can see that the first 6 chapters talk more about the Tvam, about the self. Next 7 to 12 talks more about Tat, not more, talks about Tat, Tattvadam. And the last 6 basically conveys the essential oneness called as the Asipat. And if you see the Raja Yogam, what is Raja Yogam? The Dhyanam is all about stilling the body and mind. Stilling the body and mind, as your Patanjali Yoga Sutram says, Tadadrishta Swarupa Avasthanam. So ultimately that will lead to the path of realization. Stay in concentration, stay in connect with the God. Through what? Through the equipment called as meditation. That's where Raja Yoga focuses more about meditation. So the point is, Yogam as a Shastram is what? Realization of our own identity with the God, with the Supreme. Realization of one's own nature. And how that happens? Through equanimity. Through equanimity, the union with the reality will happen. That is where we have seen the verses Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Yoga is defined as what? Samatvam. Or in 248, verse number 48, Yogastha Kuru Karmani Sangam Tektva Dhananjaya Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. And in the 50th verse, Bhagavan said, Buddhi Yukto Jahadiha Ubhe Sukrita Dushkride Tasmad Yogaya Ujjusva Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. Yoga is basically the Karmasu Kaushalam. Yoga is the skill in doing action. Yoga is what? Yoga is Samatvam. Yoga Uchyade, the evenness of mind. So yoga is what? Yoga is the state of inner harmony. It is a way of living connected with the core, connected with the truth within. And who is a true yogi? That is where Arjuna asked this question. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthidadhi kim prabhasheda kim asida vrajeda kim. There Bhagavan says, Prajahadi yada kaman sarvan parthamanogadan atmanyeva atmana tushta sthita prajnastadochyade. Not only that, dukkheshu anudignamana sukheshu vigadaspraha vidaraga bhaya krodha sthitadi muni uchyade. So, who is a true yogi? True yogi is a siddha prajnan. True yogi is a person who will not get affected. And not only that, in the 6th chapter we can see the verse number 46 and 47. Tapas vibhya adhiga yogi jnanibhya api mada adhiga karmibhya cha adhiga yogi tasmat yogi bhava Arjuna. Not only that, yoginamavi sarvesham madgade nandaratmana sradhavan bhajade yo mam same yuktatamo mada. So yoga is much greater than the ascetic. Yoga or a yogi, not yoga. Yogi is greater than an ascetic. Yogi is greater than a scholar. Yogi is much greater than a ritualist. And who is a yogi? The one who worships me with unwavering devotion is the perfect yogi. Bhagavan says in 6th chapter, in the end of dhyāna yoga. Union with God through love and surrender harmonizes the action, harmonizes the knowledge, harmonizes the devotion, harmonizes the meditation. So yoga is basically the combination of these four. And bhakti is the supreme form of yoga. That is what Bhagavan Krishna says, right? That's what it says, yoginavapi sarvesham madgade nandaratmana sradhavan bhajade yo mam same yuktatamo madaha. Who worships me with unwavering devotion. So here Bhagavan is equipping Arjuna to be self-aware. That is what Bhagavan is equipping now. Self-awareness, and again how you master your mind, the mental mastery, and whatever you do, no problem, you should find peace. Whether you are Yodha or an engineer or doctor or philosopher or a lawyer, whatever is it. You be self aware, you get the mental mastery, and you find peace. See, ultimately, if you are not able to find peace out of whatever we are doing, then what is the purpose of life? So that is where we have to take a bail, and again that bail has to be through the knowledge. You be content. That inner contentment is very much needed. That is more valuable than chasing anything outside, because those things which we are chasing will not stay. You need to be an Atmavan. Bhagavan says that. And fundamentally, we all are trying to find perfection in life. Day to day, we all are seeking perfection in our life. And how are we trying to get that perfection? That perfection we are trying to seek from outside. Then perfection will never happen. The real perfection is all about recognizing one's own true, eternal, unchanging nature. What is not changing. That only is the real perfection in us. And once we identify that I am that is the perfection. That is the state of perfection. Otherwise, the universe or this world will drag us into everything. So, in the last verse we have seen in the 60, yes. In the 58th verse, Kurma Angani Iva Sarvasha. Detachment and mastery over one's senses. Like how a turtle or a tortoise withdraw its limbs. Kurmangani Iva Sarvasha. So it stresses that the true strength is not running behind the things. The true strength will not come when we run behind every attraction. So how a turtle or a tortoise protect itself when there is a danger, it knows that I have to withdraw. Similarly, we should also know where to withdraw, and we should never run behind every attraction. We should know when to pause, when to withdraw, when to, or how to choose, how to drop. So what is the real freedom? The real freedom is basically the capability to withdraw from the distractions. Because those impulses will come, destructive impulses will come. So if we are able to withdraw from those impulses or distractions, that is the highest quality that we should have. The Siddha Prajna or yogi is able to withdraw the mind and the senses to protect himself or herself from the distractions and the destructive impulses. From where it comes? From the material world. So, equanimity, removing or not removing, especially in staying in a balanced mind. Because these things will come, joy, sorrow, success, failure, they all will come. So we should have the self-mastery. And how that will be achieved? Through constant alertness, constant vigilance, and you should know how to keep control over the senses. When senses are not under control, if we allow our senses to follow every desire, right, what will happen? How the mind will operate? That is what Bhagavan is now going to say. These two verses are basically taking us to the other part of the axis. What sort of serious implications will have, or will serious issues will come if we allow our mind to just run after, or if we allow the mind to encourage our senses, what our senses are trying to gather without any control. If we allow that, what would be the state of mind? That is what would be the state of mind, and how it affects an individual. That's what these two verses show us. Verse number 62 and 63 of Sankhya Yoga, second chapter, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bhijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibhrama smriti bhramshad buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. So when one starts contemplating only on the objects, only the object of, or objects of senses, what will happen? Automatically we will develop an attachment to those objects. So from attachment to desire, from desire, what happens? If the desires are not fulfilled, we will get anger, and anger will proceed to delusion, and delusion will lead to the smriti vibhramam, the confused memory or loss of memory, and smriti bhramshad buddhinasham, from loss of memory to destruction of reasoning. Destruction of reasoning in the sense losing the discriminative intelligence, and buddhinashad pranashyati, from the destruction of reasoning, that is buddhinasham, to pranashyati, meaning the state of perish, or one perishes. Uncontrolled desires and the senses will create a domino effect. Very, very, very difficult to predict what sort of a combined effect that will happen. Desires lead to anger, anger clouds our judgment. So it is going to be a downward spiral that will destroy the inner peace, wisdom, and blocking our true growth. If what is this situation is basically if our mind and senses are not disciplined. So if our mind and senses are not disciplined, this says basically a patana krama. It is basically the chudi. This is basically the destruction. So 62nd verse basically dhyayado vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayade sangat samjayade kama kamat krodho bhijayade. So basically the psychological chain reaction. Too much of contemplation on sense objects, and the mind dwells repeatedly. Right? Mind dwells repeatedly meaning through sense objects. We hear, we taste, we touch, we smell. So we create attachment, we create a raga. Right? So always thinking continuously about these objects, we definitely will create a sense in us, some like, I want this, I desperately want this. This is the most important thing for me. I must achieve it. So the desire, the kamam comes, and the what happens? That attachment. I must, I should, at any cost. That attachment strengthens into a kind of a strong urge or a craving. Because I have to possess this, I have to achieve this at any cost. And if it doesn't happen, what happens? The krodham comes. If our desire is not fulfilled, krodham comes. When the desire is not happening, what happens? The frustration will come. If somebody blocks that desire to fulfill, it becomes as an irritation in us. It becomes as a frustration in us. It becomes as an anger in us. Right? And I really want this immediately, and if something is blocking, that is where all the further steps of anger will come. One losing the capability to think. So that is why the 63rd verse says, the consequence of the uncontrolled anger, the consequence of unchecked anger. What happens? Anger to delusion, moham. Anger clouds our judgment and distorts the perception. And this delusion basically creates the smriti vibhramam, the smriti loss, the memory loss. When I say memory loss, it is not something like the physical memory loss. It means what? You lose the context actually. The awareness of dharma will go. What is right? Sometimes we can see around us also. Though you know that situation is not created, but one forgets that. That awareness of dharma itself is disappearing at this point, at the point of smriti vibhrama, where you forget the values, you forget the correct knowledge. This delusion creates a forgetfulness on one's principles that are needed to be followed. So smriti bhramshad. So the loss of memory, ultimately buddhinasham, destruction of reasoning. So without a clarity, without discrimination, their decisions are terribly wrong. You commit something wrong. So the destruction of reasoning leading to self-destruction, ultimately what happens? Lack of control, self-control, and you suffer. So uncontrolled desires and senses create a domino effect. Desire, attachment, desire to anger to fail to judge properly, and ultimately the inner peace, the moving away from the core. That is where sustidhi to aswasthata comes in, people. You are drifting away from the core. So if this happens, what will be the case? What will be the repercussion? Though Bhagavan said yogam, you have to be a yogi. If this happens, you will become a rogi. Not yoga, it is roga. See, you may think these all are very extreme. No. These days, attachment to worldly objects are becoming status symbols. Around us, we can see this. I must get this because others are having it. Through hook or crook, I must. This is what the case of Raja Duryodhana. From where what is the trigger of Mahabharata? Duryodhana's desire and anger. You all know this. Constant thought about Pandava's prosperity and their kingdom, and his greed towards wealth and possession. Greed to dominate them. And what happened when this desires are not getting fulfilled, frustration is happening. Duryodhana says, I know what is right, what is wrong, but I know what to do. Don't give advice, Krishna, to me. So he got frustrated, he became angry, he became jealousy, he became deluded, and ultimately triggered the destruction of that clan. This is the downfall. Continuous thinking of material objects, attachment, desire, anger, delusion and distraction. So Bhagavan here advise us that strengthen our discriminative faculty and never allow it to be eroded by the energy coming from the sensory system. We have seen this, the Radha Sankalpa, positioning the intellect at appropriate place. Atmanam redhinam vidhi shariram radamevadu buddhim tu saradim vidhi manapragrahamevaja indriyani hayanahur vishayamste tu gocharan atmendriya manoyuktam bhokte tyahur manisham. So your body is a chariot, shariram is chariot, atmanam redhinam vidhi shariram radamevadu buddhim tu saradi. Saradi, who is the driver, who is the charioteer? Buddhi, Krishna. Atma is the owner. Manas is the reins of the reins for the horse. And Indriya, horses. Horses are 5 and they will run. Where they will run, if you see our 5 Indriyas, they will run after Shabdam, Sparsham, Rupam, Rasam, Gandham. These are the roads. So the question for all of us is, can we fulfill every desire in life? So then we should create a formula. Intensity of desire is proportional to the intensity of anger. If we are getting angry, the problem is basically desire. And that desire not getting fulfilled is creating the anger. Verse number 64. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaran atmavashyair vidheyatma prasadamadigacchadi. Ragadvesha vimuktai. Sorry, Ragadvesha viyuktai tuhu viyuktai tu vishayan indriyai charan atma vashyai videya atma prasadam adigacchadi. The ragadvesha viyuktaidu, free from likes and dislikes, to whereas vishayan indriyai charan, the world of objects with the sense organs, charan meaning moving, atma vashyai vidheya atma, with those that are under the control of the person, vidheya atma meaning one whose mind is controlled, prasadam adigacchadi, that person will attain adigacchadi, tranquility, prasadam. The disciplined yogi is the one who has achieved the self-mastery, meaning senses under control. Such a person, such a yogi, such a Siddha Prajnan will achieve tranquility, prasadam adigacchadi, will attain real peace, real tranquility, real serenity. That is the free state of mind, Atma Santushti. But we need tremendous willpower, because the last 2 verses brought the extreme negative situation. So it means the intensity that one should have, the willpower, the vigilance, the energy to shut the outside world appropriately, is very important. A yogi should not get affected, the asparsha yoga. What is the yardstick for that? Whether you have the indriya nigraha and mano niyantrana, that is the yardstick. Search outside, no problem. Whatever you deal in the world, no, deal with that. But the real energy should come from inside. And whatever we do outside, the inner quality we cannot degrade. That is where you match or you go with a balance. You need to have the balance of what is it? You doing the karma and a passion and dispassion. We should have both. That dispassion comes through what? Dispassion comes through the knowledge. Dispassion should happen inside. That is where Upanishad is there. That is where Vedanta is there. That is where Gita is saying. So you need to enrich your inner quality. The qualitative inner enrichment should happen. So verse number 64 says, this is again a positive path, right? Though the two verses mentioned, Bhagavan said that will be the extreme bad case. But here Bhagavan says, you can become a true yogi by what? Ragadvesha, viyuktaitu, vishayan, indriya, jaran, atmavashye, vidhe, atma, prasadam, adhigacchati. So you don't need to suppress things. You don't try to escape from things in the world. But what do you need? You need the real freedom. You need to have the real freedom from the emotional reactions that will get triggered from the world. So while living amidst of the objects, people, you need to have a balanced engagement in life. So that balance is creating what? The prasada buddhi, the tranquility. The balanced engagement leads to that prasada bhakti. That is the shakti, that is the real buddhi, that is the inner strength, that is the inner serenity. That is the real foundation for wisdom and liberation. You all know the story of Janaka Maharaja. But Janaka Maharaja, called as Rajarshi, Raja and the Rishi, great ruler, very great, realized soul. And he, as a king, he lived in luxury, wealth, or at the same time responsibilities also, right, as a king. But, he used to be an asparsha yogi, remain unattached. Once while he was doing the meditation, the people started running and coming and saying that, so this palace has got fire. So this palace caught fire. So calmly he opened his eyes and said, yeah, the fire may burn this entire palace, but it cannot burn my peace. It cannot burn myself. Right? So that is the renunciation. Find the peace within. So here comes a modern man. This modern man says to a guru, Swamiji, I now go into the renunciation mode, right, for finding peace within me. So here the Swamiji, the guru says, first you renounce your attachment to this smartphone. If you can avoid using for at least 2 hours, you will succeed. Rest of the things will fall in place. So renunciation is basically, don't think that it is running away from the world, and renunciation is basically the willpower to not to do things, or to do things which we are lazy to do, which are logical to do. or which are logically to be avoided, you need to stick to that. So first you renounce the attachment to smartphone, because that is the real problem. If you succeed, you will be successful. So now verse number 65. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chedaso yashu buddhi paryavadishtate. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani asya upajayate prasanna chedasa hi ashu buddhi paryavadishtate. Prasade sarva dukkhanam. So when the mind is cool, composed, in tranquil state, sarva dukkhana, all the pains and sorrows, hani asya upajayate, right? And prasanna chedasahi ashu, with the tranquil mind, and buddhi paryavadishtade. So the knowledge is very well established. So here, when there is a serenity, when there is prasada buddhi, all sorrows will come to an end, because the tranquil mind, with the tranquil mind, with the how the tranquil mind happens, with the steady intellect becomes steady. In tranquil mind, what happens is raga dvesha will not pop up. The raga dvesha will get neutralized in a tranquil mind. So if the raga dvesha gets neutralized, chittavritti nirodham tadadrishta surupa avasthan. The real nature of self is not. This is the para prakriti. This is the state where mind is in conjunction with the self. It means what? It's a pure mind. So prasadam is what? The inner coolness, the inner peace, the inner clarity, the inner grace. Prasadam is a very profound word. It's the inner grace. The inner grace happens when the jiva really want to, or the jiva really aims that knowledge, the real self knowledge. If the jiva is aiming, that grace will come. So from that serenity, what happens? The sorrows will get removed. The agitation of the mind will go. There is no question of the mind getting agitated, because it's a steady intellect, the prasada buddhi. So here you will become more sharp, you will become more stable, and this is the beginning of end of sorrow and clear wisdom. This is the real positive progression that one can have in life. So you become a yogi. That's what Bhagavan says to Arjuna. You do the work with this knowledge, actions, passions, you have to execute. This passion should come. With this knowledge, the compassion will come in you automatically. It is not that compassion where Arjuna was telling in the first chapter. So this is the inner strength that we all should have in life. Gita is giving this great clarity to all of us, irrespective of whatever we do in life. Combine this Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastram. So you become a yogi in life. And becoming a yogi is not running away from life. Having balance with this knowledge about my true self, you operate in this world, because that is the real strength. The strength has to come from within, and that strength is there within us, with all of us. This is the biggest wisdom Bhagavan is offering to us, This is the Sthita Prajna Lakshana, how a Sthita Prajna and how a yogi should be, and how a common man should be. Okay? And this is the great secret Bhagavan is giving to us through Arjuna. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.